still in the coronavirus situation. I pray and hope that it ends soon. But it does give me a little more time to work on these videos. I'm going to do another edit of the Westgate shoot. I think today I'm just going to work on this one here. Now, when I made this exposure, if you saw the video, I did my histogram just like it shows here. The highlights were touching the right hand side. Now it looks awful here, doesn't it? So what I'm going to do is start with what I did last time. I'm going over to developer and using my developer preset. Now I explained last time, this is anything I do to every photo. So I'm going to hit that and we can see that we got our highlights and shadows. Now obviously the whole image needs to be darker. Now I don't know if you know this, but a lot of times you'll see me go up here. You can make all these adjustments right up here, and if you watch, it tells you what section you're in, exposure, as soon as I touch the screen. So I'm going to take the exposure and make it darker. Okay? Now I can see that, and again, I usually watch the screen, but I can see I don't have a lot of contrast in this photo. So I'm going to add some blacks to it, and you can do that up here also. So I'm going to add some blacks. And I'm going to get my whites to touch again. Now I'm going to hit the backslash key on my keyboard underneath the delete key. There's my before, my after. You can see quite a bit of improvement. Don't like the foreground. Don't like that the sky's showing here. So probably one of the most powerful tools there is in Photoshop, excuse me, I said that wrong, in Lightroom, is the crop tool. So I'm going to crop in on both sides, but I want to keep as many branches as possible. This foreground is really boring. I'll have to work on that. Okay, so now I'm going to go to color, and I'm going to just try auto, see what it does for me. Okay, it added a little magenta, so I'm going to take about half of that out. I might add a little yellow. There we go. Kind of warmed it up a little bit. Okay, now what else I need to look at, and usually my approach to editing is what I don't like. I already told you I don't like all this brightness. My eye is drawn to this area right here, and the color, this orange, I want this to be the brightest color. So what I'm going to do first is go up to a graduate tool and double click the word effect, takes everything out, and I'm just going to pull a graduate kind of like that. I'm going to slide it up just a little more. Now I'm going to darken this area, and I'm just watching the screen, and I'm going to take some of the saturation out of that orange, and yeah, kind of like that. Now this side is a little, what I want to say, a little lighter, but when I put my vignette around this, it may work pretty good. So what else can I do to this? I'm going to go ahead and look at my detail. Sharpness is already 60%. Because there is no sky, I'm going to pull down my masking, and if I hold my option key, you can see where the white is where it's getting sharpened. I don't want the background sharpened as much, so that was all in black. Okay, now I'm going to go to my hue, saturation, and luminance slider here, and I said I wanted this yellow. Now, you can click this little button here, come over, put your little crosshairs on the yellow, hold down your mouse button and shove up, and it will saturate. Look at the difference that made. And I think I'm going to kind of add a little blue back in this area. Okay, now I want to do luminance. Luminance is the light or darkness of that color, and I'm going to lighten that color up just a little bit. There we go. And then on the greens, I think I'll darken the greens a little. So I'm going to click on the greens and pull down. Good. That added a little contrast. Now these oranges are still bothering me, so I'm going to go to saturation, go to the orange and pull them down a little more. There we go. Okay, let's do another before and after. Before, after, before, after. Big change. Okay, what else do I need to do? I'm going to I'm going to do my vignette a little different this time. I saw this in one of Thomas Heaton's videos that he did. And I highly suggest, if you don't follow Thomas Heaton, he's a, I believe, British photographer. And he's been doing the YouTube channel for quite a while. Now I'm going to go a little further than I would. And now I'm going to take down, whoop, I got that reversed again. I need to, there we go. I had it inverted so the middle was getting dark. And you know what? I'm going to go back to my HLS here. And I'm going to click in the background. Let's see. Right here, I'm going to click in the background. And it looks like it's getting a little bluer. And I'm going to make it just a little brighter. Okay, so let's do another before and after, before, after. Now I'm going to move, oh, one thing I forgot to do is transform. Always hit auto on landscape, see if it does anything. Didn't do anything. Okay, so now I'm going to go into Lightroom. On a Mac, I hold Command E, and I said that wrong again. Forgive me. I'm going into Photoshop, and it's going to open this image. Okay, there it is. Now I'm going to make it nice and big so it fills up the whole real estate. And I'm going to go to my landscape preset. And again, later on I probably need to make a video of how I did this action. I've got darkness, lightness, and saturation. Darkness is burning in, lightness is dodging, and saturation to pop some color. I want to pop the color in the tree area, the yellow trees, and that I call them plum trees, but they're red bud trees. So my brush needs to be white. I'm going to make me a slightly smaller brush, and I'm going to color in brightness. And I don't want to get too much into the background. I said brightness, I'm sorry. Saturation. Okay, so there's my saturation mask. And this is where, again, I like to do this. It's kind of artsy-fartsy for me. And let me go to darkness. I still don't like this area, so I'm going to darken this area in, especially over here. Okay, maybe some into the trees there. And in fact, I'm going to get a bigger brush, just pull it all the way across, make sure I get that nice and dark. And right between these trees here, I'm going to darken this and darken this. Right there. What I'm doing is, what is my eyes going to? Okay, so let's turn off that layer. Look at the difference that made. Let's turn off the saturation layer. Now these are overdone a little bit. Now I'm going to go to my lightness. I'm going to get a small brush and I'm going to highlight these little trees in the foreground here. So I'm just going to paint some lines. And you can see it's overdone. That one, the tree looks like it's glowing. But I always overdo and then pull everything back. Okay, I kind of like to lighten up this. Okay, there we go. That's all I'm going to do. Now let me turn that one off and on. And it's overdone. Okay, so I'm going to use this one first. I'm going to double click the mask. I'm going to go down to up to my opacity, turn down the opacity. A little more. And then I'm going to feather that mask. Okay, now let me turn that off and on. It's not so severe. In fact, you wouldn't even know it's there. And I'm going to turn it down just a little more. Okay, turn it off and on. A little punch, just barely. Now let's look at our blacks. Let's turn those down just a little bit. So I'm going to click on the mask, turn it down, and feather it. Now let's look at the effect there. I kind of like the punch in the color, but I think it's a little overdone, so I'm going to turn down that, click on that mask, and I'm going to turn down the opacity on that layer. And now click just a hint of it. Now I'm going to flatten this image. And now I told you I have this easy panel that it's free from Raya Pro. I'm going to use the Detail Enhance. And this takes a while to do. The audio dropped off. If you'll watch closely, I use enhance and then build a mask. Option key on the Mac and come down here to mask and click it. When I hold the option key, I get a black mask. That you could do it white, but I usually do it the opposite way. Okay, and I don't know, there's several ways to do the same thing. So I'm going to get my brush, make a nice large brush. I don't want to sharpen the foreground, maybe this little bush right here. I'm going to start just sharpening these trees in the foreground. And it's overdone, okay? Remember that. I always overdo and then tone down. Okay. Now I'm going to add some sharpness up here. And I give it an overall kind of sharpness to it. And I don't want any in the background or too much in the foreground. Now I'm going to look at my mask here. There's what my mask looks like where I've sharpened it. And I could go in and fill that all in, but this is more artsy-fartsy stuff, so if I like it on the screen, that's where I'm going to go. Maybe a big brush, bigger brush, kind of paint this all in so I get that nice and sharp. Now, let me do that mask again and look at it. I'm going to fill this in right here. Okay, so now I'm going to go back to the picture. I'm going to turn that off and on. Overdone. But you can see how it draws your eyes right to the center. So I'm going to turn this mask down. And usually I go past below 50. Let's see. And I usually just, you can see the difference it made in the trees there. And I think it needs to be turned down even more yet. There we go. Just a little more punch. Now I'm going to double click on the mask. I get this properties and I'm going to feather that. Feather it just a little more. And I like that. So now I'm going to flatten it. And I'm going to save it back into Lightroom. Now I'm going to open it in Lightroom. And we have two photos here now, the one we edited in Lightroom and the one we edited in Lightroom and moved to Photoshop. Let me put those two side by side. Okay, and I'm going to zoom in. Can you see how much sharper certain areas of this image is? So, let me zoom back out. Get to 1. And let me hit the F key, and there's our final image. So if you've enjoyed this edit, please send me a comment, critique, tell me what you'd like to see, or tell me how I can improve my videos. Thanks for watching.